Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more home defense testing, and today we've got another very interesting load that we've never tested before. It's one that one of you guys sent in as well. I've also had a number of people requesting to see us try it, so I'm definitely curious to see what it can do, since these are much more on the cheaper and more basic side of things, and that might be what some people prefer for a home defense load, is your basic standard run-of-the-mill type of shell that's just going to do the job. Before the shells we've got today, I brought out some of these, the Fiocchi Defense Dynamics buckshot loads. Big thank you to Adam for sending some of these over. He sent a bunch of stuff, so we're still working through all of it. But these are a 12 gauge, 2 3/4 inch, 9 pellet load, moving about 1250 feet per second. Now what's interesting here is you see there's no shot size claim anywhere on this box here as to what pellet size they are. Online and on the shell, which here is one of those shells. I don't know if you'll be able to actually see it on camera or not, but it does claim double-aught buck right here on the shell. So you would think 9 pellet double-aught load, very standard run-of-the-mill stuff. However, if you can see those pellets in there, they are not at all double-aught. And I did take one of these shells apart and actually measure the pellets, and they are .30, so 30 caliber, which would mean these are actually a 9 pellet 1 buck shell. Still more than enough for home defense scenario, but they're not plated or buffered or anything like that. They do have a basic wad in there, so that may help them. Either way, we'll see what these can do, since the Fiocchi stuff tends to be a little bit better than a lot of the other just basic cheap import loads. And I think these are 75 cents a round or something like that too, so not the most expensive stuff. But for the shotgun we're going to run them through, I brought out the classic Remington 870. This one's got the short 18.5 inch defense barrel on it, completely cylinder bore, no choke at all out the end, so about as classic as it gets for up close and personal home defense scenario stuff. So we'll see how these Defense Dynamic, technically 1 buck shells are able to do through it. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. We're going to shoot 5 shots ranging from 7 to 25 yards, so 7, 10, 15, 20, and 25. That should cover everything from in the same room and out across the yard, out to a shed or a garage or whatever the case would be. Basically, if you ever have the possibility to be put in a situation where you had a shotgun, those ranges are probably going to cover it, and you may have to decide whether the shot is worth taking or not. But we should get a good idea on what it's capable of. And of course, all those shots will be through the chrono as well, so we can get our velocity. So let's get you guys a view of those targets. We'll take all of our shots and see how our intruders actually fare with these Fiocchi Defense Dynamics loads. Alright, so we'll take a quick look through our velocities before we look at our targets. Boss claim is 1250. I don't think we were quite seeing that from our 18.5 inch barrel, so they may have tested them through a 20 or something of that nature. But we had 1219, 1210, 1236, 1248, and 1218 for an average at 1226. So 24 feet per second under their boss claim. That's not too bad at all, and that would be plenty effective for a home defense scenario for sure. A 1 buck pellet at over 1200 is not going to feel very nice on an intruder. But how did they actually pattern? Let's go check it out and see. Alright, so now let's take a look and see how our intruders fared. We'll start inside the house, in the same room or down the hall at 7 and 10 yards. At 7 yards, we had a 6 inch spread. It's a nice even area of pellets there, no flyers or anything like that. Absolutely effective. And pretty much the same story. Moving over to our 10-yard pattern here, we opened it up to 7 3/8, so just a little bit larger pattern, but still kept that nice even spread of pellets. Everything is right through center mass on both of them, so I definitely would not want to be standing in front of either one of those patterns, that's for sure. And of course, it's a shotgun, so you would hope that in the same room that it would be effective. That is not the tightest pattern we've seen. It's definitely no flight control load or anything like that, but for a basic import Fiocchi, technically 1 buck shell, that 9 pellets worth there would be plenty good enough. I wouldn't hesitate to use that combo. Now we'll move out a little bit longer to 15 yards. Somebody that might be out on the porch or in the front yard. Here's where you might have to start picking and choosing whether you want to take the shot or not. But we did still keep a nice even spread of pellets. All of them were kept center mass. We had 9.5 inches of total spread with a wad strike right in the middle. So still no major flyers or anything like that. It's still keeping a nice condensed area of spread. And yep, that would still be very effective, that's for sure. So we're good out to 15 yards. Moving over to our 20-yard target, and we continued on the same trend, really. We opened it up to 14.5 inches of spread, but still no major flyers or anything like that. If you hit center mass, you're probably going to be hitting the intruder with all 9 of those pellets. Everything is still kept right within a man-sized target at 20 yards. So for a very basic, unplated, unbuffered import load, that's not bad at all right there. And that's kind of been the theme with Fiocchi shells so far. Just general, nice, even spreads. Not the tightest, but definitely not blown all over the place. So we're still good to 20 yards. And finally, we'll move over to 25 yards. We continued about the same opening up. Now we're at 18.5 inches of total spread, but still absolutely covered the center mass there with pellets. And on my particular painted target here, you still would have hit him with all 9 of those pellets. But out here, if you don't get a perfectly center shot, you may miss a pellet or two around the edges. So be careful if there's somebody standing next to him or behind him or whatever the case is. But I think it's pretty safe to say that would still be extremely effective out to 25 yards. So overall, I'm liking what I'm seeing here, especially when we move down here to 15 yards. And of course, when you're in the same room with somebody, this kind of performance is just about perfect, to be honest with you. It might not be screaming tight. It's going to give you a little more wiggle room in crunch time, but you still have a nice condensed even spread of pellets in a shell that's not going to break the bank. You can practice with the actual load that you're going to have in your home defense shotgun if you choose to. And they are a pretty mild-mannered shell as well in the recoil department. They're not a skeet load by any means, but they are very soft for a lot of buckshot loads. So overall, I don't think we can really complain too much. It would simply do the job, and it seems like Fiocchi's buckshot loads in general usually do just that. They're a little cheaper, they're more basic, but they will work. And that's what some people look for, a cheap basic shell that's just gonna work. And these might not be a terrible hunting load either. If we can dial our pattern in just a touch tighter with how even we're keeping these spreads, I think we might be surprised there when we start testing that. But for a defensive load, I wouldn't hesitate to run them. Out to 25 yards, it's gonna be extremely effective. There's no doubt about that. And here are a couple of the wads out of that shell. A couple of them did hit the target, which is why they're kind of smashed up. But overall, this is a good clean shot that didn't hit anything. And it looks very much like I would expect. Just your basic wad just to pretty much protect the bore. And it does seem to help a little bit with these non-plated, non-buffered buckshot loads to have at least some sort of a wad. That might contribute to how even our pattern actually was, at least out to 25 yards. So overall, I think they did perfectly fine, and nothing I'm concerned with here. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that performance right there? Overall, it's very solid. Like I mentioned a minute ago, it's not the tightest patterns we've seen. It's definitely no flight control load or something like that. But for a cheaper, basic import style shell, we have seen tremendously worse, even with some more expensive shells. So I wouldn't hesitate to use that combo at all. Now I wish they were a little more honest and actually called those shells just a 9 pellet 1 buck load rather than claiming a double-aught, and they're obviously not. But that kind of is what it is. Sometimes those European type of buckshot pellets are just different shot sizes compared to US standards. So not too surprising, to be honest with you. But that doesn't mean that a 1 buck pellet is any less effective than a double-aught pellet would be when you're inside of a house with a home intruder. I don't think they're going to appreciate it either way. So leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you ever tested any of these Fiocchi Defense Dynamics buckshot loads? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Is this a combo that you would ever run in a home defense scenario? Or would you still prefer a little fancier, a little higher end shell like a flight control or a Hornady load or anything like that? And what other shells do you guys want to see us test in a home defense scenario? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.